Okay, now, Adam, if you want to hang out for a little while, we'll do an after show. We even take calls if you want, but I know you said you wanted to leave early.
Yeah, I need to get going.
Okay,
But
Adam.
hey, I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. Let's do it again sometime. I got to tune into some of your shows here. That sounds like some great stuff. I just scratched the surface with the one you did, like I said, on Black Dahlia. Good stuff.
Yeah, look into the Jim Rothstein. You know what? I'll send you some links, okay? Because I'm a huge fan too, man. I'd be honored to have you listen to the shows, man. I really appreciate everything. And I'll keep plugging your book. I'm going to do a couple of little announcements and stuff tonight on the after show. Maybe take some calls. I'll keep plugging your book and stuff all night long.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Wish I could stick around, but I got another thing I got to do right now.
Well, you're getting old, man. 54. Now I'm only 53. I could stay up longer.
Yeah.
Okay, Adam Go Rightly, thank you very much. The author of Historia Discordia, historiadiscordia.com. Go to my blog, the Opperman Report, and all his books are going to be linked up there to Amazon. You can get them on there. Adam, is there anything you want to say before you leave?
No, once again, thanks for having me on, Ed. It was great.
Okay, my friend, have a good night.
Take care.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to, if some calls come in, I'll take some calls, and we'll have a little roundtable type discussion. Cindy Jean-Pierre is on with us if she wants to chime in, and Anne is there if she wants to chime in with her slow computer. I do want to make a couple announcements because there is some breaking news going on this week that I'm sure that people are just finding out about. So I'll go into that first, the whole Shelley Tripp story. Before I do that, though, I just want to thank Adam Go Rightly from AdamGoRightly.com and for coming on. The guy has great information. I definitely want to have him back on soon. Now, earlier this week, a little background on this, okay? My connection to Shelley Tripp and Sarah Palin and Todd Palin. Shelley Tripp, she's the author of a book called Boys Will Be Boys, Media, Morality, and the Cover-Up of the Todd Palin, Shelley Tripp Sex Scandal. And I'll put a link up to that book on the Opperman Report blog. Now, here's the deal with that, okay? Shelley Tripp was this young woman who was living in Alaska, and she had a special needs child that she's raising all on her own up there. And she started, she's a massage therapist, and she was given massages and stuff like that, and she started expanding on that and doing those little happy endings that you get when you go to these massage therapists sometimes, that you find on a Craigslist ad. So one of her clients that she reported to me was Todd Palin, and that Todd Palin was coming to her and for sexual favors and paying her for this, and that also, too, that Todd Palin would send other clients to her, and she would perform these sexual acts with these other clients and then report back to Todd Palin on what these activities were. Now, when she first came to me, Shelley Tripp had no one helping her. She had gone to the National Enquirer. She sold the story to them, but they had stiffed her on the money, and the whole Anchorage Police Department came down against her. They issued a press release saying that she had lied, but then it turned out later on that it was Sarah Palin's attorney who wrote that press release, gave it to the Anchorage Police Department's chief of police, and he issued that press release on his stationery, as if he had said it, but it was really written by the attorney for Sarah Palin. Now, all this is documented. This is in her book. The Anchorage Police Department doesn't deny this. Okay, this happened, man. I lived through this. So when Shelley first came to me, she was in a lot of trouble. She was way over her head. She had nobody helping her. At the time, I was doing very well. It was before I had this radio show, and I was in the mainstream media and the mainstream news. I wasn't doing alternative media. I was out there doing really cool stuff, and making a good living. And when I took on this case with Shelley Tripp, my house was broken into. I had a dog, too, who protected my house like it was his life's work. But they somehow got past my door. They got into my home. They got into my office. Back then, we had a really big lab back then with a lot of guys working for me. We were doing a lot of jobs, and they broke in there and they tampered with stuff and changed things around with the equipment that we use to examine the cell phones and create these forensic reports. So we had to move our offices to a really highly secured location. And then another thing that happened with this story is that, and also too, my house was broken into. My car, the lug nuts on my car were tampered with several times. We had situations where people were trying to infiltrate my life, my personal life, and my business life, come into my life and contact me that were obviously agents of foreign governments. Okay, and trying to like lure me into doing things, that they could later on blackmail me with and things like that. So we did help Shelley Tripp as much as we could, and I still love Shelley Tripp to this day. The way I know Shelley Tripp is as a person who is very methodical, very detail-oriented, very responsible, okay? She has a kid that she's responsible for. She's never been a drug user. She's never been one to disappear off on drug binges or anything like that. She's not a suicidal person. She's not a irresponsible person. She ran several businesses up there in Alaska, including a computer repair business and this massage, business she was doing to help her child who was in trouble, needed special needs. And when she was taking on the Anchorage Police Department, she was doing her own research and her own like affidavits and stuff like that, and confronting the chief of police and confronting the Internal Affairs Division up there in Anchorage, Alaska. So she's not an irresponsible person. There have been other threats and things with her in the past as well. One of the things I want to get out in this story tonight, with this whole, and you can look it up. I've talked about this in the past too, and I'm kind of a little all over the place with this story tonight. But one of the things with this is that when Shelley Tripp was arrested there in Alaska, the Alaska Anchorage Police Department captured all her cell phones, her computers, her Rolodexes, all this evidence that was in her home. And when her case was over, they didn't return her equipment, And Shelley's had different attorneys and stuff like that trying to help her. And some of these attorneys turned out later on, we found out that they were part of the Republican Party and running for office under the Republican ticket. These were Republican insiders that were representing her in the different negotiations and different legal proceedings and stuff. And a lot of people came and went, into Shelley's life that I don't think were good for her. But Shelley got a judge to order that the Anchorage Police Department had to return all of her equipment, her computer, her hard drive, her laptop, her cell phones, her Rolodexes, her notebooks, her appointment books. And despite that court order, the Anchorage Police Department destroyed some of this equipment. The Anchorage Police Department also claimed that they had examined all this equipment and did forensic examinations and recovered data and stuff like that, but then later on admitted that they never did. Okay, and they just made that up, And this is all on the record, man. And this came out because what happened later on. Oh, by the way, so I just want to get to the point that the day that I received her cell phone and a thumb drive and some other equipment and boxes of evidence from the Anchorage Police Department evidence locker, that same day I received all that equipment to process that equipment is the same day that Sarah Palin went on Hannity and declared that she wasn't running for president. Okay, it was the same exact day, and she alluded to my client Shelley Tripp in that interview, saying that she wasn't going to run because the stuff about my people are accusing of sleeping with my husband. She never mentioned my client by name, but it was obviously what she was referring to. So anyway, kind of getting all over the place here. But I've always trusted Shelley Tripp. I don't think she's ever lied to me. She came out later on with when the story broke about Secret Service misbehavior in Colombia, that they went down to that brothel in Colombia. She knew the people involved, these Secret Service agents, because they had worked in Alaska protecting Sarah Palin. So she came to me when that story first broke. She came and she said, "And I know those guys. I know them because they did the same thing to me in Alaska." And she knew information that wasn't out in the press yet. And then I got back on the case for her again, and we prepared affidavits. We examined all the paperwork and the documents and stuff like that. We prepared exhibits that were later used in that congressional investigation and that congressional hearing. And they did conclude that there was additional Secret Service misbehavior besides what went on in Alaska, what went on in Colombia. So now I'll be honest with you. Listen, my deal with Shelley Tripp was that I was allowed to do a couple of press releases, and I did them. And then she did her book. And I'm not actually allowed to discuss details of this case because there's that private investigator client privacy issues that we don't have. But what I can reiterate is what I've said publicly in the past, and that is that I like Shelley Tripp. She's never lied to me. We were able to produce evidence in a congressional hearing, a congressional investigation that confirmed her allegations. Personal conversations with her confirmed her allegations to me. Now, what happened here now recently, I haven't been in touch with her lately, but I did find out this week that she disappeared from Louisiana. She was hiding out the past few years. And there was a missing persons report. Her car was left out in front of a supermarket, abandoned, and she turned up in front of in a hospital in Mississippi just yesterday, and we know that much. Okay, and I'm looking into this further to find out what's going on with Shelley and all this story. But I can tell you this, that this story that I've been involved with, and it's in the book. You can get her book. It's on Amazon.com. When I began talking about that on alternative media, because we tried talking about it, and it's been pretty much covered up in the press. But after I began talking about that one night, with Stu Webb, off the air, we had a 2-hour conversation, and I was going to write an article for Veterans Today based on that story. And it was right after that that my business came under attack like you would not believe, where the huge multi-billion-dollar companies, huge companies, were screwing with me and shutting off my accounts. And when I would at one point I was contacting them. And they said, I said, well, this is Ed Opperman. This isn't Ed Opperman. I know Ed Opperman's voice. This is $1 billion company, man. And every time I call over to deal with the situation, I get the same person. And now this same person knows my voice and knows my name, has me memorized. She must be dealing with 50 people a day, but somehow she knows me. So there was a lot of weird stuff that went on. We've been able to solve some of it. But that case has been devastating to my financial prosperity, and also to coming into this Revolution Radio and alternative media and discussing these topics that we discuss now. We're hoping that we can take these shows, and because we're getting offers all over the place to go on more networks and to produce more live content during the week, but we're unable to do that either without sponsors. We need to be able to read live ads and produce live ads, recorded ads, and play these ads on our show, which is reaching easily right now, easily 1 million people a week. And then there's the YouTube channel and the Spreaker channel and the iHeartRadio we're about to be going on. So if you like what we're doing and you like guys like Adam Gorightly and Jim Rothstein and the work we're doing with the West Memphis 3 and these kind of shows, we have a show coming up with about the Seville case, And then after that, we have another show coming up about the Church of Scientology. We have another show coming up after that about this whole Cotton Club murders that we were talking about. So, we're doing this on a shoestring budget. I have my producer, Ann, is working with me on this. She's putting in over 40 hours a week on this. She's not getting paid anything. Okay? And then we have Christoph Moses again, putting in hours and hours every week. The man suffers from migraine headaches. He might be in the hospital right now. We don't even know where he is. And he's not getting paid anything. And then we have Keith Davis, who helps us book guests and research things. And the man's out protesting in front of a city council and stuff like that. And he's not getting paid anything either. And he needs help, man. The guy was just sick in the hospital. So we have our little sponsors here, Amanda from Pacific West Bamboo, and Mike from the infinityhomeplans.com, and now I'm trying to promote my website, emailrevealer.com, and the things we can do for you. So we really, really need sponsorships. But to get us from this point to that point, we need your little donations. If you can just give us little $5, $10 donations every week, which we have some guys starting to do that, and you could do it through PayPal. You go to the to oppermanreport@gmail.com, and you can make a PayPal donation. But one issue, that I've been dealing with since January in my personal life, and then I'm putting this out there because people are asking about it. And people know that I'm dealing with a situation with my daughter and our custody litigation. And what happened is, my daughter, she's 14 years old. She has her own radio show on CJ Mars on the afternoon, Saturday afternoons at 1 o'clock, where she talks about teen issues. Everyone knows how close we are. This is a brilliant kid. She loves God. She has a beautiful faith in Jesus Christ. She's an athlete. She's a basketball player and a swimmer. She's going to be a junior lifeguard coming up. We're very, very close. Before the divorce, I worked from home, so we were together all day long. Very, very close, and swimming and hiking and biking all together every day, and studying the Bible, going to church. We had the divorce. I've talked about it before. We had a really big litigation with that, but we prevailed. And I had my daughter 4 days a week, but I also saw her the other 3 days. I would see her at basketball practice and at basketball games and things like that. So in January, we decided to go back to court because we wanted more time together. She's almost entering high school. I figure she has 4 years left before she's off to college. That these 4 years should be a happy 4 years rather than a stressful, unhappy 4 years. Where she was living with her mother in the mother's house 3 days a week, but spending all her time in her room or arguing with her mother. So we went to court. We filed a simple little motion. She should have been allowed to make her decision where she wanted to live. And instead, I have to tell you that temporarily I have lost custody of my daughter, and I only see her 2 days a week, on Sundays and Mondays when we produce her radio show. So we go to church on Sunday, then Mondays we produce a show and the best we can. We have very little time together now, and it's a heartbreaking situation for us. And the only way that we can get justice in family court is we have to we need money, in my personal life. And I'm making a personal plea to you that I've started a GoFundMe campaign, and it's called Help Save My Family by Ed Opperman. And that's what I'm asking you to do, to help me save my family and help me my daughter salvage our life together. All the things we could be doing right now, like we're doing this radio show 1 day a week. But she had an opportunity to meet a senator from Arizona, but it was on a Thursday. It was on a Wednesday. Normally we had Wednesdays together for the past 7 years, but now we don't. So I couldn't take her down to Arizona to meet the senator. 14 years old, it's a big deal, you know. She's becoming a junior lifeguard right now. We need to train for this, you know. We need to be running and swimming, and she's not. The kid wants to tell her preference to the judge, and the judge is not allowing that. Okay. You know, I appreciate this. I'm getting some notes in the chat room here. People saying, you know, how much they appreciate the story. Everyone who knows me knows how close I am to this kid. And if you listen to her show on CJ Mars Radio at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we have the same personality. We have the same style. And we have a bond together. And we just want to live in peace. Okay? But we are under attack by the family court system here in Clark County, Nevada. Okay? And I'm kind of a politically savvy guy, okay? And I kind of know how to handle my way around court and stuff like that. But this is the situation we're in. And we need your help. So what I'm asking is if we can have your help here, by going to GoFundMe.com.
The Sprint voicemail box of 336422.
That was Joshua Brookshire calling in. Josh, call in again. I'll try and pick you up the other way. Or let me pick up you. Josh, hang up and I'll pick you up. Okay, brother? So anyway, the GoFundMe account is at GoFundMe.com. You can find there's links to it on the Opperman Report blog. There's also links on Facebook constantly. I'm appealing to people. Hey, by the way, you know what? A whole bunch of people made donations, and I want to thank them all who helped us out with the GoFundMe Help Save My Family by Ed Opperman. Okay, and one is Kat Jenkins, who's a producer over at Revolution Radio, one of the first people I met over here. She made a donation just recently. Simon Reeves is a guy I don't even know. He's some kind of listener or something like that, but he helped out. Michelle Kazekowicz, I can't even pronounce her name, but she helped us out with a donation. C. Whitaker did a donation for Jocelyn, who was a guest on our show one night when we had some conversations with her. Cyril and Rhonda Gordon, they're ministers for Jews for Jesus in California, old friends of mine. I've known them for years, and they've helped out. Joshua Brookshire is trying to call in right now. He helped out with a donation. Debbie McCurrow helped out with a donation. Simon Reeves helped out. And Christy Messina Kennedy, who's like a daughter to me, and worked for me when she was a kid. I think I was the first job she ever had, I think, was for me. And went on to become a senior vice president with I forget what it was, Sachs or something like that, Goldman Sachs, I think it was, and now has beautiful kids, is a great mom and stuff like that. So I want to thank all these people for donating to the Help Save My Family Fund. It's on GoFundMe.com, and if you look up Ed Opperman on GoFundMe.com, you can help us out. Or you can go to OppermanReport@gmail.com and help us out. Please make a donation. If you know sponsors who can help sponsor this show, okay, because the next shows we have coming up, these are huge shows. Adam Gorightly's a huge show. We're going to get thousands and thousands of hits on YouTube with Adam Gorightly. The Roy Radin show, we're doing a show about Roy Radin and the Cotton Club and the Process Church and Robert Evans. That's going to be a huge show. We got a show coming up next week about Jimmy Savile. And I keep forgetting the guest we have on, but he's a big shot, this guy, that we have coming on. This guy's no slouch. Let me see if I can find him real quick. And we have May Pang coming up, you know. So if you can advertise with us now, all these shows are going to be on over and over and over again on YouTube. So you can go back over them and hear them in the future. But we're expecting a big audience with May Pang. Thomas Sheridan is the guy who's doing the show about Jimmy Savile, and he's a big shot. So now we got some people called in. We got Christian Wallace, who's an old friend of the show. And a great guy, a big supporter. And I think we're down into Joshua Brookshire, and we're going to invite him on as well. Hey, Josh, you there?
Yeah, Ed, I'm sorry about ringing you probably on the wrong number, man.
No, we're cool. Okay, so you're on now. We got Christian Wallace, too. Hey, so Christian, what do you want to add to the show tonight, Chris?
Hey, how you doing, Ed? Hey, Josh. Hey, Ann. Well, I was listening to your story about your daughter and how people could contribute. And I think that, that would be great. And you do a lot for the station. And I remember when you first came on, I remember when you were just calling in.
Yeah.
And, and I'd get so mad because I'd be like, you'd call right before me, right at the end of like a certain show, and you'd take like all three of my talking points just coincidentally, just totally random thing. And I'd be like, damn it, because then I'd be next and I have nothing to say. Because you hit every point that I it was just one of those weird things. But, I guess great minds think alike, and,
we all do seem to be tuned into the same stuff,
Yeah.
There seems to be a big pattern going on here, that we've stumbled upon.
Right. And I think the process church thing, I think you're right when you go that angle with things, because everything kind of does lead to them. I was reading something interesting about Charles Manson and Tom Cruise, and they were talking about operating Satans versus Scientologists.
Right.
And they were saying how high level Tom Cruise was, and they were saying the second highest was Charles Manson. And then a Scientologist got on this thread, I forget where I was reading it, and they said, no, get it straight. One is an operating Satan, and it's similar in degree systems, one you could have money, I guess, and pay for. It's real expensive. It probably costs Tom Cruise, I don't want to just, make numbers up off the top of my head, but if they think they were in the ballpark of like, $500,000 to get, just like if you want to be a Mason, they don't just give you, honorary degrees. You got to pay for them. And, it's expensive, so it's like a status thing. But they do teach you things, and they were saying that Manson wouldn't have had the money to be what Tom Cruise is, but they were saying the knowledge that he had, put him up in this high degree. So it's just another connection, to put out there. And then when you go and you see the two founders of the Process Church, or two of the older members back from when they were in London, they were talking about the Scientology and their knowledge of it, and how they were trying to blend it with, a lot of the aspects of the occult. And I'm trying to go into my memory and try to, pull it back up to remember exactly what they were saying. But
don't forget, Chapman lived right next to the Scientology Center in Hawaii, and David Berkowitz had a phone number of a Scientology guy. It just goes on and on and on, man. Scientology seems to be involved in everything.
Yeah, they do. And they wanted to recruit Walt Disney. They had a list of celebrities, when they were, getting ramped up. There was a really good interview with I think it was a French interview, and it was when Tom Cruise had just come out as an actor, and you can find it on YouTube. And what happened was that he had just made, I think, Risky Business and maybe one other film, maybe not yet Top Gun. He was real shy, and the woman started touching on how he wanted to go into the priesthood. And he said, wow, you really did your research. And, so I think what they do is, they go to people who are, somewhat religious or are on the fence of what they want to believe. They're young, they're idealistic, and this was a different time in Hollywood, and they kind of, get at them, and, they're really good at they're very savvy at the way they recruit. And what happened is, the guy that you see today, if you look at that video, is a total different person. The level of confidence, the pictures, tell 1,000 words. This video is just remarkable to see, the difference. And, the number of celebrities that they have now, Juliette Lewis, the people that, Beck is a Scientologist. John Travolta, of course, is another very famous one.
Well, John Travolta, real quick, there was when he was doing the Sweat Hogs, Welcome Back, Kotter. The female Sweat Hog, you got to look up her name. This little blonde girl, not the Hotsy Totsy, but there was another, the one who was called the first female sweat hog. She was at a party at Roy Radin's house in the Hamptons, okay, and she was drugged and raped in that party, and no one got arrested for it. And I remember this is such a huge scandal in the New York papers. So I've looked her up to find out where she is now. And you know where she is now? She's living like in London or something like that with a guy who's an LSD advocate, you know, who's like a big LSD cult guy.
Like guru type, like a Timothy Leary type?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's crazy. And then of course, you know, with the scandal that happened with John Travolta with the masseur, and what he said was, it was a bunch of, what happened was this came out in the court proceedings with the two of them, and all of a sudden John Travolta, was funny, started saying all these crazy things. I guess what he had groped him or, you know, touched him inappropriately, you know, during the massage. And then he said, well, how do you think I got to where, you know, I got to back in my Welcome Back, Kotter days, was by performing, you know, sexual favors for, you know, producers and people that were, you know, higher ups in Hollywood. And then all of a sudden, you know, he says something like, Hollywood is run by gay Jews. And it was like, why would he be telling the masseuse that when he's, you know, trying to get groped? You know what I mean? Like, he started saying all these inappropriate things that were almost too telling. I just thought it was really odd.
Well, have you looked into the story of Paul Barisi?
I probably came across it. You got to give me
Paul Barisi is a very famous private investigator. He works for big shots now. He was in the whole Pelicano group, and he testified against Pelicano. He's working for everybody against Pelicano now. But he was a gay porn star, okay, in his youth, and he was in that movie Perfect. And he's you can see him in the scenes in the beginning, in the locker room scenes.
Well, there's an overlap. There's a huge overlap in porn and there's a huge overlap not only in porn. This is another thing that overlaps into. There's a huge overlap, especially now at this administration, into Hollywood. Almost every single you can tie so many people from the Cal Penn, that's the kid from Harold and Kumar.
Oh yeah,
it's in the White House. Shakira works with the White House, as you know, was just made Malia, I think, Obama's daughter Malia, I think, got a PA position with Steven Spielberg. Who was the other one that I just... Clooney is always back and forth with the White House. You know, so many overlap with this, you know, administration. It's very strange, and it's funny how, you know, if you look up their pasts, you know, what their qualifications are, that they would, you know, why anyone would grab them to go in there. Is it nepotism? Is it, you know, there was nothing that stellar in any of their backgrounds to really, you know, justify any kind of policy making. I'm not sure they're on any kind of, you know, big committees or anything. I don't know if they're in think tanks or if they're just kind of like ambassadors, but you know, they and I don't mean like to other countries, but you know, some fluff position that they made up for them. But the thing is that they, you know, they're ensconced in there, and you know, I don't think it's a coincidence, and there's a whole longer list. I want to look it up and find out some more of the people, but I find that funny, that overlap there. And then when you said the girl, that brought something up when you said that she joined the cult with the guru.
Yeah.
Give me a second and bring it. I'm always better when you're talking and then it sparks something.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Boy. What did I just say? I saw something. I was like, I gotta tell Ed this because it's very interesting. What were you guys were talking about? Because I was in and out. You guys were talking about Manson and the drug dealing that was going on.
Yeah.
With was it at the Tate house? Was that what he was saying?
Well, everyone thinks that Jay Sebring was a major drug dealer, and that's where he really made all his money, not from that little hair salon. Because he had millions, and Abigail Folger and all these people, and Papa Phillips, he admits that he was dealing major drugs, so.
Yeah, talk about a reprobate.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a scum. I mean, his own, daughters, the things that he did and everything. The other thing with Jay Sebring, it was Warren Beatty has the highest award ever bestowed by the Academy on him, and he portrayed Jay Sebring. Of course, he was in Bonnie and Clyde, but a lot of people, I don't know if they know this or maybe they don't. Do you know who his sister is?
Shampoo.
Yeah, Shampoo, right?
Who Warren Beatty's sister is?
Yeah, do you know who his sister is?
Yeah, that woman, with the...
Shirley MacLaine.
Yeah, Shirley MacLaine, with the occult stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I know. But I thought it was funny how they kind of, they're not so open with that, but,
Well, his best friend is Dustin Hoffman, who portrayed Robert Evans in that movie Wag the Dog. Okay?
Right.
Yeah, that was definitely Robert Evans. Everybody says that. And, and again, forget it. This is
they called him Stanley, and they called him Stanley, almost like to make the Kubrick connection there. And
really? I didn't notice that, yeah.
Yeah, his name is Stanley through the whole thing, and he keeps asking Robert De Niro, "What do you do exactly for the president? What do you do?" And he never tells him.
Yeah.
And then at the end, he wants to tell the story because he thinks it's such a dynamic story of how they fooled all the people. And I actually made a YouTube video about that. It was very similar. It was during the time of CNN and the Desert Storm. And they had the fake reporters in the on the satellite feed pretending they were in Iraq.
Yeah, throwing their helmets on, yeah.
Yeah, with the helmets on. What a joke. But I lost the thread of what you were saying before that. It was reminding me of something. Oh, the drug dealing and Sharon Tate. Sebring, yeah. Oh boy. See, it just goes. It just went.
Well, maybe you have brain damage, man.
Well, I got a lot going on behind the scenes.
I know. Yeah, we all do.
It is. But talk a little bit and among Josh. Go ahead and I'll jump in when I can.
A couple of things. One thing that caught my eye this week. I don't know if you guys had been paying attention to the news or anything, but that big tussle in the news about the Satanic Monument in Oklahoma City and the Harvard Black Mass. You guys, know that, right?
Yeah, but I didn't know there was anything in the news this week. I've heard about both those stories, though.
Well, they were going to have a Harvard Black Mass, but now they're trying to perform the Black Mass in Oklahoma City. What's interesting is Lucian Greaves, the guy's name that runs the supposed new Satanic Temple. His real name is Doug Mesner, and he actually used to blog for the website of the Process Church. You can go to it. The process it'll be in all caps if you go on Google. There's one section that's a public blog, which is pretty much what you would expect. Process propaganda. It takes up the tact of Scientology, where it's very dismissive against psychotherapy. Anyone that believes in some sort of grand conspiracy is automatically paranoid. And then, to me, this is the interesting part, is the website's divided between a blog section, which is public, and a darknet, which you can only access, through darknet. It isn't available for the public perusal or anything like that. That's one connection that really struck out at me with the process thing, because I used to read all about it. I know all about Marianne Faithfull on the cover and the connections with Manson. But I think, though, after Maury Terry wrote that book, that they were really legitimately forced to go underground. That's why they have the Best Friends to Animal Society out there in Utah and things like that. It's all PR. I'm very sure that this group definitely still exists.
I always thought that they had the Best Friends for Animal thing so they could have an unlimited supply of dogs to sacrifice. I don't think that, I think that you can get that same energy from having an animal shelter that kills 1,000 dogs a day in ovens without doing ceremonies over it. I think you could tap into that same energy for a sacrifice.
You can sacrifice animals. Yeah, there's a crossover. You're right about the sacrificing. It's a blood. Yeah.
Yeah. And I forgot what I was going to say too. I'm turning into Chris Wallace.
No, go ahead. You were saying that you think they have that for other reasons.
Yeah. But also too, Josh, you were talking about how you need a password to get into a certain portion of the website. Same thing with the Temple of Set. It's not a public website, man.
Interesting.
Yeah, you need a password. You got to be a member. Yeah, and checked out and get in there with a password.
Man, we need to get somebody to infiltrate these things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that would be a good idea. Well, I'm not going to say I'm working on it, but
Actually, you go ahead, Christian. Then I have a question for Mr. Gorightly.
Well, I am.
Mr. Gorightly had to leave. He's not here.
Ah, goodness. I'm sorry, man. I thought he was still on. Sorry, brother.
Okay, well,
you guys fill in for a couple of minutes, all right? I'll be right back.
Okay, I am working on. I was listening to a person that put together, and I can't believe I'm forgetting their name because I watched 5.5 hours of it. I guess he's a musician and actor. He has a big long list of credentials of what he does. But he did a pretty much like the ultimate expose on the Kurt Cobain murder, and he pretty much put the whole thing to rest and said, yeah, it was straight up, it was totally corrupt and it was a murder. And
who's that?
I gotta find his name and I gotta get him as a guest. I sent him a message last night because I was like, dude, you got this guy on.
The private investigator?
I'll find his name. No, he's an actor, a musician, and his name is Brendan something.
Okay.
And he knows everything. 5 hours. I actually sat through 5.5 hours. It's just him talking straight to camera, and he read like every book, and he knocks down every single. Do you know that to take and I brought this up when we were talking to Hank Harrison. I said, if you were that suicidal and you took a shot of heroin, I said you wouldn't be suicidal and then shoot yourself. Well, not only was Kurt Cobain clean off of drugs, because to get rid of the whole tolerance thing, to say, well, if someone built up a tolerance to the heroin, they'd be able to lift the shotgun. First of all, he was clean, so he wouldn't have had the tolerance, number one. Number two, they said that he was a lot more eloquent with this, but what happened was that basically no one in history had ever taken a dose of heroin and then picked up a shotgun and shot themselves that was suicidal. They either did an overdose of heroin or they shot themselves with a shotgun, but never combined. It was preposterous. Let alone did one shot in one arm, one in the other, rolled up one sleeve and buttoned it back up, put their works away, and then with their toe, in a crazy position with 3 shells lodged in the shotgun, even though they're going to shoot themselves one time, pulled the trigger somehow. And, he just eviscerated the official story like the kid from Loose Change did with 911, but really eviscerated it. I mean, if you had him and Hank Harrison on together, you could pretty much indict, I don't want to say their names, but the people, the moneyed interests that would have wanted this person dead. And the only person that kept throwing all that Kurt's a drug addict stuff out there and he's suicidal was Miss Courtney Love. And she is just, the whole thing with Rome, I don't know about if you guys know the timeline, but sorry, this is fresh in my brain because I just watched it. That wasn't a suicide attempt. He knocks that down, and so do the doctors. I mean, it's not just his opinion. I mean, he did scholarly work, and he laid it out like a detective, and it was just unbelievable. But I got to get you his name. I sent him a private message. I'll see if he sent it back, and I did it in the spirit of you should go on this guy's show, Detective Ed Opperman, and maybe you could get Hank Harrison back on, or maybe just him.
Now, Hank will come back anytime. But also, too, we have opportunities, guys, to go live, at least, on big stations, a couple more nights a week. way bigger than what we're doing now. We got to get the ground, we got to get the foundation. But we need the sponsors,
Right.
Yeah. And I saw Christoph told me that you're going to have Thomas Sheridan on, man. That's going to get you a lot of hits, man. That's going to keep spreading that over there in the UK. I know you already got a foothold, but that's going to blow it up, man.
Yeah, we're really excited about that because I don't think he's been doing much in the past couple of weeks. So we're going to have him coming on. He's coming on next week.
Yeah, the Jimmy Seville thing is very interesting. There's all that stuff going on over there. You know that Lady Butler Sloss, the lady that they have investigating the pedophilia scandal with the 20 ex-MPs of Parliament, she's the same person that carried out the investigation of Dodi Fayed and Princess Diana.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you're not going to get a legitimate investigation out of that at all. You just know that, or I know that, or in my opinion, over.
Yeah, he's coming on the 25th, not next week. No, what date would the next week be, then? So, yeah, he's coming on the 25th. Who's coming on next week? Mark Ebner. Oh, next week we're doing Scientology and Hollywood scandals.
Oh, sounds good.
Yeah, it's all fitting in. We got a flow going on here, man.
Yeah. Just so everybody knows, so I don't blow my credibility here. The reason why I'm so scatterbrained is just I'm really tired. I had to run around all day today, and I had some patients and just some stuff going on. So, and then I was half paying attention. So when you said, my name, I had your laptop too. So.
Nah, you're fine, man. You're fine. I'm just kidding around.
Same little face there. But, no, that sounds interesting. Talk about Thomas Sheridan to me. Fill me in a little bit with that.
Well, I think he's from... Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, good. Tell us, Josh.
I talk to him pretty often on Facebook. He's a pretty down-to-earth guy. He's just like a musician and a painter, But he's done a lot of work on the mental faculties of psychopaths, like clinical diagnosis of sociopathy and psychopathy and all this stuff. But he's gotten into work on like basically the British version of COINTELPRO, infiltrate and change movements. But he has this whole thing on Jimmy Seville, and I listened to it, and then I did my own research, stuff that he didn't bring up. There can be a legitimate case made that Jimmy Seville worked with Peter Sutcliffe, the so-called Yorkshire Ripper, in the 70s up until 1980, up in northern London. And there's so much police protection and all these things, I know where he's coming from with that, and it makes a lot of sense because if you look into, like, they're coming out in mainstream newspapers like The Guardian and The Mirror over there, where they're revealing after this guy's dead that he was a necrophile, that he would take glass eyes out of dead people and fashion them into rings, and things like that. You question him. I don't want to blow his thing before he comes on your show, but when there's a lot of smoke, I believe there's some fire with that, and studying what I know about serial killers and what Dave McGowan's done, it always has to be a team, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. He's coming on the 25th.
Yeah, he's got a good built-in audience, man. You're going to see a good little jump, like in your ratings. Like it'll be doing good.
Well, yeah, we got a whole bunch. Yeah, we got a whole list coming up. And then we got that big Cotton Club murder show. That's going to be. There's nothing on, guys, on YouTube. You go look for Roy Radin on YouTube, and there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I could find the closest I could find is that archived Radio Free America 5-parter on the ultimate evil, where they basically just discuss how he died. They don't talk anything about Roy Radin's life or anything like that. It's extremely hard, even on Wikipedia, to find any truth.
Right.
The thing is, I had friends that went to parties at his house in the Hamptons, and they talked about, like porn stars, that the place was like full of porn stars, and that there were young kids using drugs there and stuff like that, and like young 13, 14-year-old girls there, You know, I don't know if they mentioned any boys, but these people, you know, and I was in the nightclub business, so these were people that are already used to the nightlife in New York City, you know, and extremes. But this was like so far beyond, you know, what they could even deal with.
Yeah, that was the overlap I was going to say, I think, earlier, was that there's an overlap, you know, with Hollywood and Washington, and then there's an overlap with, of course, you know, the porn industry and, you know, the cesspool that it is. And then, you know, I think your average lifespan, if you want to die young is, or if you want to live, for longevity, go into the Hollywood, and if you don't want to make it past 27 or 28, go into the music industry, and you know that they just drop like flies in the music industry. Even if you make it past there, you're not gonna live long enough to. I mean, look at Michael Jackson's dead, Whitney Houston's dead. I was watching I think it was like a documentary about the '80s. And it, you know, of course, it was flashing back to all of the beginnings of hip hop with Run DMC and Aerosmith, and you know how there was only just a few channels, and when the Walkman first came out, and when you know the first computers came out, and how limited everything was, information wise, and you know entertainment wise, and it really put it into a perspective, you know. It also jogged a lot of memories. I remember living back then, and you know, all then started to come, and then corporate America started to jump on that bandwagon, and you know, use cross promotions with things. But you got to see it in everything in its infancy, and a lot of times now it's hard to make some of these connections because we're looking so far back. But when you see that, you know, from 79 forward, you know, into the 90s, you know, you get to see, like, what was scandalous. Like, back then, they showed the Madonna performance at the, I guess it was their VMAs, yeah. And she sang like a virgin. And all she did was come out of a birthday cake. And she was rolling around on the stage, you know, like a moron. It wasn't anything special. But they were just, like, you know, shocked. And everyone in the audience was dressed like they were going to the Grammys or the Oscars. You know, it was the crazy, wacky VMAs that they have now. And, you know, that was considered like scandalous. Now flash forward to my performance, you know, in 2013. And it would be like, you know, the people would have been having heart attacks and freaking out comparing the two. Or just flash forward to Madonna kissing Britney Spears on stage. It just was, it was so amazing to see how far, you know, things had changed, or just how degenerate and like I said earlier, reprobate the society has become. I just noticed that the other day. I thought it was interesting, and I don't know, we're headed in a bizarre direction, and if somebody can come on and put it into some sort of context, you know, I think that's the best thing, is not to lose context and focus of everything.
Right.
You know, and kind of like, you know, keep us like on keep our moral equilibrium, you know, even, you know, especially if you have children, or like myself, children coming into the world. You want to, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to even have the TV turned on. I really don't know. I mean, it's pretty disconcerting. You find out that the guy that's the voice of Elmo is a pervert, and you find out that, you know, all these different people, I mean, is nothing sacred? Is everything? It's really disheartening sometimes. And like I said, we got to keep it in perspective. And one of the ways that, for me, was to see, you know, the progression of how all these things started to, you know, come about.
You know, it's funny you mentioned Madonna, because I believe she has a connection to Yippie headquarters as well, because she worked as a waitress down at CBGB's, which was right around the corner. And I'm telling you, man, there was this chick there. I met her a couple of times, and looking back, it could be Madonna. And you know who also used to hang out there too is Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah, the two of them are everywhere. Aren't they always inserting themselves into everything?
I didn't notice that. Flea kind of, I only remember him from,
popped up in that, like, he had, I did not know he had anything to do with, that he was, like, in the background of, but Madonna inserts herself into everything. I mean, she's everywhere. She was just on jury duty the other day.
Yeah, right.
Did you see that? No, that girl, talk about staying power. And, I mean, I've seen, MK Ultra beta models and, all different ones come and go in maybe a 10-year time period, and rise and fall since the 90s. Look at Madonna. How many years has she been around?
Yeah, how'd she pull that off? Yeah.
80s? I mean, what? Good God. I mean, you gotta give her at least a little bit of credit for that. I mean, talk about just sheer staying power. I don't know how she keeps it. Did you see her brother went on Howard Stern? I think that's actually a really good interview to listen to.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, because he kind of, when you go to some of these sources that aren't so much conspiratorially bent, and then you kind of can piece some of the stuff together, because they ask questions, that are, very superficial. And sometimes when they answer, it's almost like taking them off guard, and they say things they wouldn't say if you asked them in a different format. And, you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but you know what that reminds me of too is that Madonna was really big friends with Rosie O'Donnell,
right,
for a while there. And if there was anybody, Rosie O'Donnell, something happened to her, man. That her whole family is a mess too. And oh my God, there's so much with that Rosie O'Donnell. That has to be trauma-based sexual abuse as a child.
Right.
It just has to be. And when she, you know the story of Rosie O'Donnell too. When she had one of her adopted kids, she punched her hand through a glass. She was so upset at this kid that the neighbors were calling the cops. There was screaming coming from her house, and she sent this kid back to the adoption agency.
Are you kidding? I didn't see that.
Yeah, and at the same time, she had this big giant bandage and cast on her hand, and she admitted she punched her hand through the window.
Wow. Yeah, they had a kinship. The thing that I thought that was interesting about both of them were, I think she had the reputation of being the queen of nice when she had her talk show. And she pretended on her talk show, she would, that she had the crush on Tom Cruise. That was her whole shtick. And that was the persona she was playing up. Well, then what happened was, in the midst, I believe, of the talk show, she met Madonna when they were filming that movie, League of Their Own.
Right.
And the two of them were supposed to be like the tough Bronx girls or wherever. Like the two of them kind of, either played in the outfield or something. And in the movie, they were like, friends. And then in real life, they became on the show. But really, what people didn't know, they had a lot more in common than, I think they both had brothers that were gay. They both lost their mother. They both, they had a lot of similarities. And then Rosie O'Donnell lost her show. She got that butch haircut that Miley Cyrus got, where they start the shaving up the sides. And she said, now forget the queen of nice. I'm putting that aside. I'm coming out with both barrels, and I'm going to attack Hollywood. Pretty much, she came out with this new brand.
I think Columbine had a big effect on her too.
Right, and she had Tom Selleck on at the time when he was involved with the NRA, and she kind of, went out. Yeah, and then she goes on The View and starts
9/11.
9/11. Golden 7.
I got a Rosie O'Donnell connection. Okay. Back.
Of course you do.
I know, but it's on I have a couple of them, but on my IMDb page, you look me up. I used to do I was an assistant producer on a radio show on WBAI for Kathy O'Connell, who, by the way, Rosie O'Donnell totally stole her act, okay, and to become that queen of nice, because that was Kathy O'Connell's routine. In fact, Kathy O'Connell today, she's still alive, and she reads story time for little kids and stuff like that, right? But she did a whole thing. And one of the bits that we wrote back then was the Mary Tyler Moore Show trivia contest.
Right.
And the bit we put on was that I called in, and it was all set up. But then I called in, and I was the Mary Tyler Moore Show trivia champion. Okay, because I got all the answers correct. I wrote the questions. Okay, but I got the questions right. So at the time, now Rosie O'Donnell, she was known as she was doing first. She did. Everyone knows. Okay, she did Bill Cosby's act. Then she stole Jerry Seinfeld's act. Okay, and then she started doing this Queen of Nice act that she stole from Kathy O'Connell. Rosie O'Donnell stole that bit about the Mary Tyler Moore Show trivia contest, and she went on People's Court with it and sued another woman who supposedly won some trivia contest at Mary Tyler Moore Show.
So she stole the bit, and then
she had to be listening to WPAI in those days, and she had to steal my bit.
Wow. That's awful.
I know. I got a connection to everybody, man. I'll tell you.
I had a friend that went on the. I think it was when they brought the People's Court back, and I'm not sure if it was with Ed Koch or not, but they brought it back, and he went on, and this was in it was either late 90s, like really late 90s, or around 2001, 2002, and he said that what they would do when you go on there is because it's good for TV, you go on with a real civil dispute.
Yeah.
They pay you ahead of time, so whether you win or lose, they tell you to kind of play it up, like theatrically. At least they did for him. And, he was, suing him for like $100, because they're little petty, cases. And it was for like, he had a party when the roommate was out of town and there was some damage to the apartment or whatever. But he put on this big show, and that was the kind of personality that he had. He was sort of a funny, he wanted to be a stand-up comic. And he told me, he said, "Oh, this was all just theatrics. They pay you before and after, so it doesn't matter who wins or."
No, it doesn't matter who wins. I'll tell you exactly how they do it. There's a fund in the New York City People's Court with Judge Millian right now, because my friend, who was the security guard at the Staten Island Mall, did security for the People's Court, so I know the whole deal. It was a $1,500 fund, and if I sue you for $1,000, that's subtracted from the $1,500. So if I get more money. If you win the case, then we split it all together, 50-50. But if I win the case, I get most of the right. So I think you
explained it better. I think yeah. I was young at the time, and I remember him explaining it. And he wanted to show everybody the tape, and I was half listening, but I was like, oh, so that's how it works. I said, well, why were you fighting so hard for your case? And he kind of was like, well, it was for the exposure, and it was fun and everything. And
you get a little bit more, yeah. But I'll tell you something else. Judge Scheinlin, who was Judge Judy's husband, was the judge, right? He was a judge on People's Court. Now, that piece of garbage, man, there were 2 cops in the Bronx that killed a kid. This kid threw a football at the police car. They got out of their police car, and they strangled this kid to death, and Judge Scheinlin let these cops go.
Oh,
Judge
yeah.
Judy's
What's that?
Go ahead.
Judge Judy's husband let those two go?
Judge Jerry Scheinlin was a judge in the Bronx. And people talk about, and people got to look that case up, man, because it was a huge case in New York City. Those cops were drunk, too. Everybody knows those cops were drunk because it was the night before Thanksgiving Day parade, and all those cops on that duty get drunk that night. It's a known, party detail.
Uh-huh. No, well, tell me how Judge Judy is worth so much money also. Good Lord. That woman is worth like
$47 million, I believe, per year.
Well, the other one, Judge that guy, the Memphis one, Judge
Joe Brown.
Judge Joe Brown. You know who he is?
Tell me.
Oh man, he sold out the MLK trial. He was the civil judge, man, in the Martin Luther King trial, who screwed. He sold himself out. Okay, in Martin Luther King trial, and then they gave him that TV show as a payoff.
Oh, right. Oh, Ed, I could go if you want to know, and I don't know if people know this, but what the whole civil rights movement was all about: decapitating the real black leadership and then, the stragglers that were sort of ingratiating themselves into the movement then turned it into a gay rights movement. It was just a subversion. You know what I mean? Like that's what that was all about. When Malcolm came back from making his pilgrimages to Mecca, he pretty much renounced the old I hate, blacks and whites need to separate. He said, whoever's with me, he said the Nation of Islam used me, and he said anybody who wants to be with me can be with me. And Bayard Rustin was the one that was running Martin Luther King the whole time, and all he ever did was oppose the Black Panthers. All he ever did was the power behind the throne to Martin Luther King. And Martin Luther King plagiarized his whole college thesis. I don't want to go down that road because it's a long topic, and I don't want to say anything, that's factually inaccurate, so that people say no, that's not true. I want to make sure and find that it's all right, get all of the facts straight with it. But that whole movement was subverted, and a lot of people, like Jackson and Jesse Jackson especially, and someone who did a lot of really good work on it was Steve Coakley, who's dead, and a lot of people know, but that was just Judge Joe Brown was one of the beneficiaries of like you said, that fallout.
Hey, Christian, man.
Yeah.
And hey, actually, this is weird because this ties into your last week's guest, where at the very end of the show, you guys were talking about the connection between Scientology and the Nation of Islam.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, you wanted to call in. What do you got?
All right. So there's it ties in my opinion, with the Process Church of the Final Judgment too. I keep going on about it. No host or anybody affiliated with Revolution Radio ever seems to remember this, but the cult of Nuwaubians, Nuwapu, they had a very large Egyptian life-size obelisk sphinx set up in rural Georgia. Malachi York, whose original name was Dwight D. York, he was up there with Elijah Muhammad, and he was one of the founding members of the 5 Percenters up there. His entire teaching is basically a black nationalist version of the Process Judgment ideology, where anything is permitted. They use occult references from ancient Egypt and ancient Babylon. They have all this New Age ideology.
That's where the whole melanin thing. Have you heard that, Josh? Comes from?
Yeah, where they're aliens, and when they pass through Earth's atmosphere, it changes the color of the skin, right?
Yep. And Jay-Z was at I think he was at a Nets game with Beyonce, and he was wearing I think it's the 8-pointed star, the medallion of the 5 Percenters. It's a giant medallion. And he was, they said, go ahead. The
interesting thing is, though, and Ed, man, there's something in this case because it happened in 2002. It's not been reported despite all the cult elements, raid elements, and like alien cult references attached to it. But the government raided his compound and charged this guy with over 100 counts of interstate trafficking of minors for sexual purposes and things like that. His cult is still extant on the internet in New York and Georgia, all over the world. It's connected with the United People, the Moorish ideology.
Yeah,
and I believe it's connected with Wesley Snipes as well.
What's that, sir? I'm sorry.
I believe it's connected with Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, I think
it might be. Go ahead, Malachi York himself actually produced a lot of the 70s, very later period of the Drifters, a lot of that so-called message music, soul music, and things like that. Dell something in the Blue Notes or something like that. He was a financier. His son. Yes, I think I will look that up and I will double check that, and I'll send it to you on Facebook just to make sure. His son was one of the first people to put money into the Atlanta and New Orleans rap scene, the Dirty South or whatever music scene that they're bringing that up now. And the cult's still out there. I think that's one of those branches that you never hear about because the government raided in there with helicopters, guns drawn, freezer trucks with body bags ready to go and things like that. And it happened right after the invasion of Iraq, so we never really heard about it. But, I mean, we hear about Waco and Ruby Ridge and all these things. It's just there's no one out there that talks about this little cult, this crazy little cult with gigantic pyramids and obelisks in Georgia, you know?
Yeah, is there a guest we can get on for that?
Yeah. What's that?
Is there a guest we can find to bring on to talk about that?
The only people I know are people that steadfastly defend him and claim that it was a land grab by the county government that wanted to take the land away from the cult. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you would be willing to have people that would speak on that, but I can look into it, you know, for you.
Let's do it, yeah. That's an
all right,
story.
man.
I watched that I think you sent me the video, right?
Yeah. There's a couple of radio hosts out there that are connected with that I know would want to, in their own way, spread the message, whatever. I mean, I neither denounce them or defend them. You know what I'm saying? Like, in my opinion, I don't have enough information about it, you know? It's just one of those crazy things. Continue, Chris. I'm sorry for speaking of you, man.
No, it's all right. You gave me a lot of stuff to think about. Well, first off, Farrakhan was talking up Scientology, and I remember seeing that a long time ago, thinking, why? You know, why is he singing the praises of it? And then the other thing was, is this being recorded, Ed?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Wait, it's live on the air.
Okay.
It's live.
No, that's good. No, I mean, that's good. I'm trying to think of, I've pretty much talked to a few people in that movement and back and forth, but I didn't ever ask them if they'd come on. But there's one guy, I'll type his name in because I don't want to, misrepresent him and say that he'll come on when he won't, or, and he would be a really good guest. And I'll write him back and see. He normally will go on shows, and I asked him a while back, going way back. Yeah, so he would be a good guest and know all about that. The other thing with that that you might remember going back on that time, they killed a lot of the Black Panthers were dead, but who was it? The name is escaping me. That got out of. What was his name? Oh man, not Marcus Garvey. Oh boy, I know that's not a lot of information, for you to go on. But if you knew who I was talking about, you'd know.
Well, give us a little bit about the story.
Okay, what were you guys were talking about the 5%ers. I'll tell you one thing that's interesting about that. You know how they wanted to take the clip from Sterling, right? His son died of a drug overdose at the same time. There's a lot more to that than what they're reporting. And some of the comments of what he said. Wait,
whose son died of a drug overdose?
Yeah, in the midst of all of this.
Whose son?
Madness. Sterling's son.
Sterling, this guy with the basketball team?
Yeah, and supposedly LeBron James, who just left the Miami Heat, they were talking about him going there at one point. It was in February, and I don't know if that was before that whole thing happened or what, but that's $1 billion company, right? Now, Jay-Z is wearing a medallion of a group that actually that claims racial supremacy, right? Is pretty much along the same vein or in the same spirit of what, Sterling said, right?
Right.
So if you impose a rule that's going to ban one guy, how does that not, reflexively apply to another owner because, Jay-Z is still affiliated with or co-owner of the New Jersey Nets, isn't he?
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was at one point involved with one of the teams, and for some reason, like I said, he was just wearing the medallion, so most people didn't even know what it meant. But there's a lot to connect there, and a lot of times I think what happens is we focus on one side of the stuff, and as we've learned from our friend Douglas Dietrich, you know how he said in World War II we sort of focused on the Eastern Front, and a lot of Americans don't know so much about the Pacific Theater. I think sometimes we have a myopic view of things, and we need to broaden it to get the full picture. And I think that you've led the way by having a whole host of diverse guests on your show, and I think that's why your show's so good. And you've had some really interesting guests that a lot of people haven't had on or heard from, and I think you should keep doing that so we can get that full 360 view of things, and then we can put the pieces of the puzzle together a lot easier.
I totally agree, man. Let's bring everybody on.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk to them. I'm not going to agree with everybody. But
no, you don't have to agree with them. No, I was just going to say the best are the people you disagree with. Because then you see where they're coming from, or you can find common ground. What we all live. We got to share the planet. And we got to find common ground where we can, and we have to, if nothing else, understand where the other people are coming from. And what's happening is there's a nationalist movement of whites in this country. There's a nationalist movement of blacks in this country. There's a lot of people trying to divide people, and and unofficially from what I see, it seems like there's a group of identity Christians that want to live separated, and there's another group, kind of like a Nation of Islam type group that wants to sort of live, in Atlanta, in the South, and whether to go or not, unofficially, you're kind of seeing, a migration of people moving that have money towards these areas. And they're kind of separating, and I don't know if I don't think it's a good thing. I think that people should find out what they have in common, which is freedom, and they should accept that, and they should come together, under that banner, and put aside their superficial differences. But that's just my opinion.
I can agree with that. Let me take the reins for a second. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
All right. What you're talking about with Jay-Z, though, is the medallion was that, if I'm not mistaken, it's the Nation of the Gods and the Earth, which is a more militant branch of a splinter group of the 5% Nation. But at the same time, you have to realize, man, and I'm a big hip-hop head myself, a lot of really, very popular hip-hop artists are involved with the Nation of Islam, and also involved with secret societies, real secret societies. You have people like various members of the Wu-Tang Clan, who I love, and things like that. You have Busta Rhymes. Mos Def, he's currently banned from coming back in the United States. He's exiled in his home in South Africa.
Hey, you want to hear a funny story about Method Man?
Yeah.
Okay, listen to this, man. Method Man had an album and stuff, They did, because, Wu-Tang Clan's from Staten Island. One of the guys that worked for me became a big shot with them.
Ed knows everybody.
I know, yeah. But listen to this. Method Man came to my booth. We used to sell beepers and cell phones in the Staten Island Mall. And Method Man came to buy a cell phone. Yeah, he wanted to buy a cell phone. He had no credit, He had this album and stuff like that. But not only did he have no credit, he had no ID. He had no driver's license, no identification card. The only ID he had was a card from the South Beach Psychiatric Center. Okay? he was been institutionalized at the psychiatric center. So anyway, that's my story about Method Man.
Wait, was it Method Man or was it Old Dirty Bastard?
No, it was Method Man. I didn't know who this guy is.
They were both had mental issues then, because I think that's what had happened. He lit himself on fire supposedly when he was in either county lockup or prison, because he had mental things going on with him. But you're saying that Method Man came to the booth and you asked him for ID and that's what he presented?
Yes.
Wow.
That's a pretty dope story, man.
Yeah, you like that? But my buddy, my friend, actually, it's a long story, man. We grew up in the same neighborhood together, and he became, at 19 years old, he became the security guard at my high school. Then the whole thing, he became a heroin addict, and his wife died in a car accident. It was a whole big thing. We had the same lawyer at one time, too. So I've known this guy for years and years. And he became, for the Wu-Tang Clan, like their guy in charge of selling their T-shirts and marketing and stuff like that, and their merchandise and stuff.
Well, yeah, man, that doesn't surprise me. They also have like a big early connection when they were still calling together now, down in Richmond, Virginia.
Oh, really?
They used to play shows in New York and Richmond. They just go back in there, you know what I'm saying, and take from that what you will. And I find it no surprise that one of the more auxiliary members is actually from Fayetteville, North Carolina, where the military base is. I like Wu-Tang, but they do have like their esoteric side to them. Over.
They do. I lived in Richmond for a little while. That's a whole other story. But yeah, no, they do. You're right. And RZA has gone on to work with what's his name, Roth, and do the soundtracks for a bunch of movies. They kind of all sort of, went different ways. And he's still around and actually he did that movie. He actually made that movie, the Iron Fist movie.
Oh, yeah?
And I still keep up with with the hip hop. But the thing that happened with hip hop that kind of derailed the whole thing was, you can see from the beginning of its inception, it started off as a kind of a counterculture, sort of a black punk rock type of a thing at the beginning, and then it became corporatized rap. And then, they started to have consciousness, sort of hip hop, and then they, saw that coming, and what they did was they had the gangster rap come in and kind of, what would you say, tarnish it, And
yeah, it seems like right after Grandmaster Flash, when he came out with that song, It's Like a Jungle
Right.
Sometime, which was like just, sent chills down your spine when you lived, and I grew up in the Bronx.
Uh-huh.
I grew up in the same building as Africa Bambaataa, who was Fat Steve. We knew him.
Renegades of Funk.
Yeah, we knew these guys, and so I knew him growing up, playing stickball,
Uh-huh.
and so Grandmaster Flash, it was like a real sent chills down your spine, that song, but then it just changed to this gangster, money, flashing money and stuff like that, selling crack, selling drugs and stuff.
Oh, and Ed, I'm glad you brought that up. After the gangster thing came in, then I was looking up. Remember how I said I had to circle back to the Kurt Cobain thing, because when I found out that his estate was worth $500 million, it said that the wealthiest hip hop mogul was P. Diddy with $580 million. So for a dead rock star to have an estate worth $500 million is big time money. That is like, that should send up all kinds of how the hell did he accrue that much money? That's, like I said at the time, like Paul McCartney money. I think Paul McCartney's a billionaire now. Dr. Dre supposedly just became a billionaire by selling the Beats headphones. And Michael Jordan just became a billionaire. You'd think he would have been a billionaire a while back, just recently as well. So I don't know. There's ties there somewhere that I believe. How you always bring. I know you know a lot about the OJ thing.
Yeah.
I heard that Michael Jordan, O.J. Simpson, and Bill Cosby were going to invest in a company. And around that time, all three of them lost someone close to them. Michael Jordan's father, O.J. Simpson lost Nicole, and Cosby lost his son. And they were pretty much, like with Cosby, it was just a random, senseless, his son was driving and, some Russian kid just walked up and,
Yeah,
shot
I don't
him.
know how random that was, man, because, at the same time, right
it
after
was,
that.
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, yeah, because I'm pulling around here. But right after that whole thing where his son got killed, a girl who had some kind of affair with Cosby or something like that suddenly got arrested, man, or had a baby with Cosby, got arrested for extortion, So I don't know how random all that was and some kind of deal was made or what. I don't know what that whole deal is,
That's what I mean. I don't think it was random at all. I think there was some sort of I don't know how tenuous the connection was, but it seemed like those things all happened at the same time. And it was very suspicious.
Yeah, I don't know about that I never heard that about Cosby and OJ all doing a deal together.
Right. No, I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know. I just know you know a lot about the O.J. Simpson
Yeah.
case. And the
Yeah.
other thing...
No, go ahead, Christian. I'm sorry, man. Go ahead, man.
Well, what I was going to say also, you said something real interesting, too, earlier about all the people involved with it were involved in Ontology.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Let me tell you something.
Vince.
I can remember sitting on my friend's porch, and I had done a flow chart, like those mafia flow charts,
Uh-huh.
of everyone involved in the O.J. Simpson trial and their connections to not only Scientology, but also the Process Church. And it was so terrifying to me, these connections involved with these people, that I tore it up. And all my research that I did, because this is before the internet, this is before computers. I tore it all up, man. It was terrifying to me.
Wow.
But
Ed, you need to resurrect that, man. The time is coming, man.
No, but now I have to. I got no choice because we got to get all this stuff out. Otherwise, they're gonna put me under, man.
Well, no, the thing is, once this stuff is all brought to the light of day, because I said something that was actually, sometimes we get bogged down. Like I said, this was all disconcerting. But at the same time, when we bring this stuff to light, once you shine a light on this stuff and you expose these people, then there's nowhere for them to hide. All this stuff is coming to light, and with the internet, it's like everyone knows now. Like they can't flash their symbols anymore without people knowing that they're, flashing their symbols. They can't wear certain things without people knowing that they're showing allegiance to this, that, or the other. I mean, they can't hide anymore. Once it's out there, they can't, they don't have that, it kind of takes away their power. The power in symbols is that a symbol has to have more than at least two meanings. And once everybody knows what a pyramid is, once everybody knows what the horns are, once everybody knows what, they're doing with their hands and stuff and the handshakes and everything, then, they can't, so you kind of are safer when you do bring the stuff to light. It's less disconcerting.
Man. It's a good thought, man, and that's why I'm glad that Ed Opperman, my brother, and you, Christian, man, and everybody out there listening, that we get the opportunity to say these things. We all think it, but it's good to get together and collaborate and have like a resonance that comes back to another person's input. I just wanted to throw in there a dude that I played a show with. His name is Riddle, he actually helped, along with Ice Cube, ghostwrite some of NWA's lyrics, and everybody knows Dr. Dre doesn't write his own lyrics, Eazy-E back in the day didn't write his own lyrics, but I know one of the dudes that helped ghostwrite some of those pop radio songs that you know, along with AC Alone and other people from Freestyle Fellowship and Project Blowed in LA. They're easily legendary hip-hop artists. Those are the people that actually wrote, like, those gangster rap things, and they were paid a pittance. It's the modern-day version of the old mafia hood shaking down the African-American artists for their song rights and royalties, you know? Mm-hmm. That's the modern-day thing, and it's going on now, you know? And you can tell it because the people, in my opinion, and me as a musician, and I know way more than I should about hip-hop culture, as much as I know about any other type of music, but if someone's speaking in coded language, then in my opinion, they're an enlightened individual and they know what they're doing. If it's just all about wealth and money, it's something that's fed to them. You know what I'm saying? So it's both, it's the esoteric and the esoteric message of the overall message. Why do you think the Notorious B.I.G.'s first record was called Ready to Die? Do you think Puffy did not have that in his mind? You know, and his second record's called Life After Death, when the royalties start kicking in. I mean, any novice person can look at that and see that Sean Puff Daddy Combs, you know, he ain't what he says he is. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to throw that in on what you were saying, Christian, man. Continue, brother.
And the real name of the Notorious B.I.G. is Chris Wallace.
Yep.
Ooh, and spooky.
But putting that aside for a second, when I tried to do all this stuff before I met you guys, and it's been a while, I was doing I had a blog spot, I had a YouTube channel, and it was so funny because once I would hit 10,000 views or a certain number of subscribers, all of a sudden videos that, you know, no one had a problem with got pulled, and I got copyright strikes, and I even got in trouble for using, I wrote an article and on my blog spot, and they said that I used the image, you know, I didn't get it from, I guess, Google Clip Art or whatever you're supposed to get it from, you know, and they pulled a copyright on the, you know, like all of a sudden roadblocks started to get thrown up, and I got discouraged.
It goes on all the time, man. If I would have get on the radio every week and complain about the crap that I'm getting hit with, man, it would be all I talk about. And I know already people are complaining about the, you know, I'm begging for money now and I'm calling around, you know, this is an uphill fight, you know? Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. What I'm saying is that since now, you know, we're a little bit more savvy with it, is that if you can get the sponsors, and I'm working on 2 really good ones for you, and, you know, you can get a lot more visibility, then I'll reach back into my repertoire and pull out some of my, you know, some of the stuff I've saved. I have so many videos that I've edited that I couldn't upload to Facebook, I couldn't upload to YouTube, stuff that, you know, was really good, but it's just on the shelf, it's just sitting there. And on my computer, or I'm not going to say where it is, but you know, like that, I dare not, you know, even release it because I don't want it to, you know, just either be seen and get lost in the ether, or, you know, just get a copyright pulled on it. So I'm kind of holding back some of the stuff. But if you could get more visibility and everything, then not only will I hit them, I'll hit them hard, and I'll bring out some other stuff, and then. Like I said, I don't want to say too much. I get in trouble sometimes on your show because I get like excited and I say stuff about certain people that I know, and then I get reprimanded for it afterwards. That's all I'm going to say. But
right now, okay, any station, any internet station that we contact and say, "Do you want to play our podcast?" Everyone wants them. Okay, we can have 10 times as many podcasts out there playing right now than we have right now, but I don't have the staff to, you know, send them out and upload them and all this kind of stuff like that. It's time, takes work, you know. And the other thing too is any station, internet station, big ones that we contact and say, hey, do you want to either carry us, simulcast us? they all want me on, but they want me on live, you know? So we can blow this freaking thing up really, really, really fast. We just need some sponsors, man, because Ann doesn't get paid, Christoph doesn't get paid, Keith doesn't get paid. I get paid, I'm able to promote my website and stuff like that, but I got to do that work on top, you know. So and that's where we are. And now I'm getting hit all over the freaking place with this custody stuff and other attacks, you know. And now even Shelley Tripp, I don't know what's going on with that, but but it doesn't make me feel. I don't sleep well at night knowing, people I worked for are disappearing and then reappearing, you know?
Right. Or knowing that certain people behind the scenes, that's what I was just about to say something I probably shouldn't have, but, just knowing some of the evil deeds certain people have done that are just going unpunished, and they're walking around, and if people only knew, the people that they worship and the people that they follow, if they only knew half of the things, that it would be a whole different society. And the culture war is the real battleground. I'm telling you, it is exported all over the world. And America, the one thing that we do well, we have a lot of culture, and people see it all over the place. And when they see, Miley Cyrus and, all these other people making fools of themselves, and, doing what they do, what do you think the rest of the world thinks? They either copy it and imitate it and, say, well, look at those buffoonish Americans. It's disgraceful. I mean, we I just think it's the way that we can win this is we can take the high ground, and we have a lot more to offer than what we're presenting ourselves as.
Well, on that note, do you think the culture war has spread though? What'd y'all think of the Eurovision Song Contest winner singing a song about a phoenix? With the hermetic alchemical idea of the third gender presented. What did y'all think about that?
I didn't even know about that.
It was absolutely horrifying. And you know what the name breaks down to? Conchita Wurst. If you look up Conchita and then you look up Wurst is obviously like a bratwurst, right? So you can get the image in your head. And then Conchita is a, like a clam. Yeah. Really is the duality thing right there. I mean, it's just thrown in your face. And, if that ever starts here, where we're going to have performers for Ed's edification, a guy with a beard, I guess, a transgendered guy, got on stage and in the equivalent of, our American Idol, it would be. I guess it's like a singing competition over there. Got on stage and sang "My Heart Will Go On." I think that's the song that Conchita won with, and then sang about a rising phoenix. And in the acceptance speech in the win, this person walked up and said, "You know who you are, all the people that supported me. We will, not conquer or something,
We will prevail." Yeah.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it seems to be getting into our face here,
Well, here's my thing, man, because I'm down with performance art and punk rock and crazy, people being crazy and things like that. There's a difference between that and something that's slick and corporate and designed to be like a movie. You know what I'm saying?
Like Lady Gaga doesn't seem to be. She's not. That's not rebellion.
No.
If it was Lady Gaga doing that act and it was a real person expressing those ideas, you would never hear from it. It would be somebody that's touring in somebody's basement and things like that.
You guys know the story about Lady Gaga's history, right?
She was on The Sopranos. I know that for a fact.
I didn't know that, but you know about her roommate falling out the window?
No.
Oh yeah, guys, you gotta look into that one, man. You know, yeah, there always seems to be with these people deaths around them. You know, mysterious deaths. You know, and then suddenly this person's taken and they're elevated to this position. Hey, but real quick, let me read some ads, okay? Because we're 8:30. We've been going on here for an hour and a half.
Yep.
Let's see. What do we want to read first here? Hey, how about Brookhouse? You want to read an ad for Brookhouse?
Sure.
Oh, well, wait, for me?
Yeah, you. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know, man. Hey, this is Unspeakable, the musician from Bookhouse, one half of it. We have a website, bookhouse.bandcamp.com. We have a lot of free music, a lot of very fairly priced, like psychedelic, esoteric music that'll open people's minds and get people motivated. We play shows around North Carolina and anywhere that you want to book us. You can reach me. My name's Joshua Brookshire. My brother's name's Aaron Brookshire. We're the two members of Bookhouse. Contact us. We'll do anything, man. We're musicians on the fly. I don't know, man. Ed, you put me on the spot with that.
Do you have any shows coming up?
Actually, on Sunday we're playing at Zog Pool Hall in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, with other acts to be determined. If there's any listeners out there in Chapel Hill, come out there and we'll hang out, you know, man. Come see us play. I'll buy you a beer or something like that. Got other shows in September, but I don't want to, you know, bore anyone with that details. Go ahead, Ed, man.
I'll show up for a free beer. Okay. And you can advertise here and from website or your business. Email us at oppermanreport@gmail.com. My website is called emailrevealer.com. You can give us a call at 800-448-0772. We can trace emails back and locate and identify the sender. We can find runaways through their email address. We can find people cheating online by tracing their email address back to online dating websites. If you think your email account is hacked and someone's reading your emails, we can monitor, find that. If you have suspect infidelity, you can send us cell phones or hard drives. We can recover deleted data out of that. Another one of my sponsors is infinityhomeplans.com. You can check out them at infinityhomeplans.com. It's Mike Gray, great guy, and he's your resource for 3D and 2D architectural services. And they offer a multitude of products, including home plans, 2D digital drawing sets, 3D models, and renderings, and more. So if you're thinking about putting an addition on your house, get a hold of Mike Gray at infinityhomeplans.com. And he's your source to reach for that kind of stuff. GoFundMe.com. Save my family. Guys, we need your help. We need your support. We're fighting against a very corrupt family court system here in Nevada. And, you know, the more I put myself out there and talk about this, the more we're going to need your help. So if you can help us out, go to GoFundMe.com. Ed Opperman, Save My Family, GoFundMe page. You can also support us with a PayPal donation at oppermanreport@gmail.com. And then we have Pacific West Bamboo, our lovely sponsor there, Amanda, who has helped us out and helped out Keith Davis, our roving producer out there. Keith Davis is a saint. He's a street fighter. He's out there in front of the Oregon City Council and stuff like that. And he's out there confronting people in the street that he believes are pedophiles and involved in all kind of nefarious activities. And good old Amanda stepped up and helped out Keith Davis when he was in trouble, and we appreciate that. Her company is Pacific West Bamboo, 503-839-8126. You can reach her at demrootz@oppermail.com. That's DEMROOTZ @oppermail.com. And she has a Facebook page under Pacific West Bamboo. They're your number one source for timber construction and craft-grade bamboo poles, plants, and products. They special eco-friendly reclaimed wood products for the home and garden. They're located in Portland, Oregon, but they ship worldwide. If you are in China right now and you don't have enough bamboo Call 503-839-8126 and Amanda will ship you bamboo. Well, they already have bamboo, but anyway, and they will be at the Portland Bamboo Festival July 14th, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Stevens Pavilion. And they're featuring lectures, workshops, vendors, and demonstrations. And they'll also be excited to announce they are assisting the building of the stage and art pieces for Pickathon 2014 in Happy Valley, Oregon. All right, guys. Oh, hey, Amanda's in chat right now. Say hi to everybody and Amanda at the CJMarsRadio.com chat room. If you're listening on YouTube or, oh boy, we're everywhere nowadays. Spreaker and iTunes and TuneIn. If you're listening, SoundCloud, we're everywhere now. And go to CJMarsRadio.com, man. She's a big supporter of the show, and she's a big help. She broadcasts our what do you call it, after shows live every week. They have a chat room, and you can check her out as well. My daughter has a show in there Saturday afternoons at 1 p.m. at teentruth.com, where Victoria Maria Opperman puts on one of the best radio shows in history. Okay, we're back. We got to record those commercials, man, so I can go take a pee. So I can go pee, man. And you know what? I got to thank the audience, man, because you guys out there, you helped with the studio fund. We've reached our goal with the studio fund, and all I got to do is just order that equipment and then figure out how to use it, and we'll be able to do stuff like record those commercials and stuff.
Yeah, because you say them almost verbatim, so your recording them would be good. But you do them so well.
Thank you.
You know, I love the fact that it's the enthusiasm that you bring to when you do it, you know?
Well, you know what? We appreciate the sponsors, man. We really do. They're good people.
I mean it. No, I mean
yeah. You know, and we got good people at the and I can totally endorse Amanda, for all her great work that she does out there. And she really is like the bamboo queen. She has these contracts for importing bamboo. She's like a bamboo wheeler dealer, man. It's amazing. So if you need a deal on bamboo, definitely Pacific West Bamboo. And Mike Gray over there, great guy with his InfinityHomeplans.com. You know, you're building something, give him a call, and he can help you out.
Sounds good.
Yeah, man, and Ed, man, I really appreciate you giving me a chance to shine there, even though you put me on the spot. If anyone's listening out there that makes documentaries or makes short films, feel free to take my music and do whatever you want with it, man. Like, it's out there for the public. I appreciate you allowing me to say something about that, Ed, man. Very thoughtful. Thank you, man.
Josh, man, you've been a supporter of the show from the start. And I appreciate everything you do, man, and being out there and stuff like that. Thank you very much.
I wouldn't be a supporter of you if you weren't bringing out real things. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's important, especially, I'm honored that you allow these after shows because a lot of these topics, man, if we get down into the nitty gritty, it's something that can make a grown man cry. Like that Rolling Stone song. You dig?
I do, man, and don't think that, this stuff doesn't affect me either, because, people hear me on the show, I'm laughing, and we're going light about it because it's just so bizarre, and these connections is just so mind-blowing.
Right.
I don't know what to tell you, man. I have my faith in God, that keeps me through all this, and really good people out there that pray with us, and keep us in support. Like Reverend R.J. Knight up there in Maine with Gospel Tent Ministries. And I know they got a tent meeting coming up shortly, and I got to promote that as well when I get the dates and stuff.
Yeah, this stuff, can really get... What I was going to ask you guys, if you had ideas about it, is how do you guys bring up this stuff, or how do you ease people into... I thought I'd be better at it after all this time. I have... certain people that I try to ease into this information, and but some of it, I don't know if I should hit them with the hardest stuff, and sometimes I like to see what they'll make of it. Just throw out some crazy stuff and just see what their reaction is. Something they'd probably never come across or never expect and their daily life. But how do you think is the best way? Because, like, the reason I ask is some of the people that I want to try to get to advertise on the show, the way that I would have to explain it would be, you know, it would be, I wouldn't want to get too conspiratorial or blow the mind too much, but I'd want to kind of explain it in a way that it made sense. So how would you suggest, or how would you, you know what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah, I would say it's a true crime show, you know, and we deal with true crime. And we have the same guests that you see on HLN and Court TV. You know, we really do. You know, we had Diane Diamond, and we can get more of these, and Pat Brown, you know, and Steph Watts, and Cheryl McCollum, who's a Pulitzer Prize nominated author. You know, I know I've said it 10,000 times, you know, and she is. You know, so we got all that stuff.
And Cynthia McKinney.
Cynthia McKinney, a presidential candidate, a congresswoman, you know.
Right.
So when we're doing this real stuff, man, it's real hard-hitting news with no boundaries, and we're willing to talk to everybody. And and our goal is to go back, reach out to historical events. And I believe that the death of John Belushi is a historical event. I'd love to do a show about that. He's right, you know. And let's explore that. And all these events, man, that were pivotal points of our life that affected us, you know, and let's go in and revisit them and examine them and see what we come up with. And listen to all points of view. We'll talk to anybody.
Well, that was the angle that I used. I used the Cynthia McKinney, and then I said a lot of the HLN type stuff, true crime type stuff, and I think Cindy Sheehan I mentioned. You know, I kind of took that approach, and that was actually, you know, people responded.
Yeah.
So that actually piqued their curiosity. So these are potential sponsors, and that was the approach that I used. And I think that's an apt way to describe the show.
I agree. You know, and the more live shows we have during the week, if we could pay for this, to do this and get these shows out there, the more mainstream stuff we could bring in. We draw in the mainstream population. You know, people that are interested in stuff like Michael Lohan. Let's bring them in, you know. And then they tune in the next day and they hear something about like what we're talking about tonight.
Right. Good idea. I don't know if you should go down the alien route, though. I'm still.
Yeah.
I got no problem with the alien route. The problem I have is this stuff about, the powers that be, and we need to store food, and we need to stockpile weapons, and we need to dig bunkers in our backyard because something in the future is going to happen to us, and they're going to come knocking on our doors, and when FEMA camps come, then we're going to rise up. We need to be rising up right now, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Not waiting for something. I think that's a whole freaking mind game that they're playing on us with this storable food. And I know I get on this rant every now and then, and you got me started. But the thing is, you know...
I just did aliens.
Right, you know, the aliens I'm not even worried about. Either it could be, could not be. Who knows? We don't know. Let's look at it and examine it and see what we come up with. You know? Right. But this business about that the Illuminati and we're under oppression, and the solution to that is that we're going to somehow meditate and our vibrational frequencies are going to raise to a point where we can pretend it's not happening to us. Okay, what that tells me, what that is, someone who's saying that is someone with a trauma-based mind control in their life, and it's a trigger, and they think that by closing their eyes and pretending it's not happening to them, it's going to go away. Pretending it's not, that we're not getting that thing up our butt is not going to make it go away. We're under oppression. Let's not deny that. The oppression's getting worse and worse and worse and worse every single day. And all this vibrational frequencies and we're all becoming awake and aware and they're afraid of us? No way. They're not afraid of us.
Right.
Nah.
Yeah. And that's there's a thing, man, going on that whenever people are talking about the oppression that we're under, that there's some kind of new age solution to it, and there's always a co-optation by this new age element of solution. And I think that's a trick, and I think it's a trap for us, you know. And every station I see that's this awake and aware type station also has that element of deception that's taking us off the track. And I think this whole thing about storing food and storing bullets and stockpiling guns and any kind of digging bunkers in our backyard to bury ourselves when we should be taking to Times Square and clogging up the subway stations and clogging up the streets, not burying ourselves in our backyards.
Yeah, man. Ed, my thing, man, I come at this from like a musician standpoint, and in me, I strive for social justice. You know, I won't even write something with my pen if it isn't true with me. You know,
right, man.
People today, it's so easy to click like on a Facebook, but where's the real version of Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young for my generation? You know, I'm 27 years old. In no diss, you guys got more foresight than I do. Y'all have seen more than I have, but for me, it's like, all right, we're sold this version of the past where they actually stood up and did something. What's the difference between Lyndon Baines Johnson and George W. Bush and Barack Hussein Obama? You know, there's the same thing. It's just packaging, and the media has such a broad outreach that people that are coming up under me, a larger percentage are zombies. You know, in my class, I had the little clique, and we all ended up being artists or like activists or world travelers and things like that. I don't see that from the kids that are 23 and younger. You dig what I'm saying, man? So the importance of this show, man, we got to put it out there, and what gives it credibility and is the key that unlocks the gate is real world facts and real world names that people recognize. And I'm glad you're providing this platform, Ed, man.
Well, I'll tell you something, Josh, you know, when I was in high school, 17 years old, 18 years old, okay, fine, I stumbled upon the Yippies in New York City, who had Yipster Times and A.J. Weberman and these books and the Overthrow newspaper and stuff like that, you know, because back then we didn't have the internet, you know. I stumbled on this stuff, man, and as soon as I heard it, man, it resonated. I knew it was real. I knew, you know, whoa, this is what's going on. That makes sense, you know. But it wasn't like everyone was revolutionaries and everybody thought the way that I thought. Especially I was growing up in the 80s under Reagan. It was all about greed and you know, and selfishness, you know. So, you know, and we have that same element today, but there are young kids today. Look at this kid, Dylan Wade, man, who does this Truth or Show, you know, and, you know, I was on his show talking about the Millers and stuff like that. In fact, it's the only way that the Miller story got out, you know, was on his show at first, because I couldn't get it out. John B. Wells couldn't get it out, but we had this kid got it out for us. So, you know, listen, you know, we got to encourage the young kids, you know, and teach them. And show them the way without. Well,
you guys, were you guys primarily anti-war? Were you guys with that your thing?
Oh yeah, I totally was from the start. Yeah, even during the Iran-Contra, not Iran-Contra, the Iran hostage thing. Mm-hmm. Even then, man, when the whole country was, you know, jumping up and down, I was like, "Whoa, hold on, man! There's something going on here. We're being gamed here, guys. You know, and there's some kind of trick going on here. I could just see it, you know."
When I was a year old, I was speaking in sentences. I don't know how good my grammar was, but I remember saying, "Jimmy Carter's washed up." One of the first things I was saying. So I actually remember, I wasn't a year old then, but I mean, you know, I was talking, and I remember my family making fun of me, and they had, you know, recordings, and I remember hearing that played back, and, you know, I guess people were saying it so often I parroted it, and you know, then like you said, the hostages got released, and, you know, there was the October surprise, and Ray came on the scene, and there was and
you know what, too, man, another thing, too, about that is that back at that time, it came out that Ollie North was part of that whole Operation Desert, you know, bogus where the helicopters crashed. He definitely threw a monkey wrench into that thing, but now all that information is just getting washed from the internet. There's so much stuff that I've learned over the years that is washed and scrubbed clean from the internet.
Yes.
Yes. And people need to realize this. Dude, when our knee-jerk reaction, okay, is that everything's a false flag and a crisis actors and blah, 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 and it's to take away our guns, blah, blah, that's conditioning, man, okay?
Right.
When we're saying that every single thing's a false flag, a game to take away our guns, blah, 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 I hear it over and over again, I don't see a single gun being confiscated, man, in the ghetto, yeah. But otherwise, I see them selling more and more guns every year from this game. And they want us shooting each other. What do they care if we shoot each other?
Right.
Ed, man, you have to get Suzanne Pozelle to do that MP show, man. That's a big link in that chain. That's something that really needs to get a little bit more exposure, that Council for National Policy. That it's the guy that wrote the Left Behind series, Reverend Moon, H.W. Bush, all those big people. Rand Paul's a member of the CMP. You need to get her on and explain it, man. The guy that owns Hobby Lobby, which Amanda Miller worked at, is in the CMP, and now recently the Supreme Court has the Hobby Lobby decision.
Wait, hold on. Amanda Miller from the Millers?
Yeah, I believe she worked at Hobby Lobby at one point. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, wait a second. So when you said Amanda worked, I thought you were talking about Amanda from Pacific West Bamboo.
No. From the Revolution Shooters, the Las Vegas Shooters.
Okay. Okay. We got to look into that then. Okay, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Get Suzanne Pozelle on from Occupy Corporatism. She's she's like you. She's very down to earth.
Yeah, they contact me all the time. They want to come on, but I've been kind of. I'll have to take a second look. She's
really good friends with Vinny Eastwood, Ed.
Okay.
Yeah, so the two of them kind of. Vinny's really cool, and
I like Vinny.
Yeah, and Suzanne has really good information too. Yeah, I don't want to say anything about the CMP or the Republican Party because I'll get in trouble. So.
Of course not. Yeah. we all gotta watch our step around here these days.
Have you guys seen the picture of me on my Facebook with Newt Gingrich?
No, I have not. No.
You didn't see that picture of me giving him the Masonic handshake? It's a secret handshake I'm giving him.
Secret handshake. So you gotta teach me that.
Yeah. I might have to delete that one now off my Facebook, but it's on there. Talk amongst yourselves though about it. I'm not going to say anything about Ronald Reagan or the last, what was it? The last 4 presidents. I'll just listen.
What?
I don't know, man. I kind of have like this disparate feeling, like you can't get up there unless you bow to another bastard. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter what party or anything, both sides at the core. It's just a big game, man. It's just a game,
It's like the Who, meet the new boss, same as the old boss.
Yeah, but for my generation, it's like the old adage, vote for your new M&M color, or who do you want to be like the new World Wrestling Federation champion? It's like there's no real substance there. If you switch parties, there is nothing, You have a bunch of chicken hawks who want to fight wars with other people's children, It's nothing, It's just a big game. And the fact that people want to divide on either side when both sides are obviously on the same track, they're pushing us in one direction. So what can we do? It's up for venues like this to speak out. You dig?
No, I think I sort of oscillate between when I was a lot young, I'm not trying to denigrate anybody's political philosophies. I was a liberal and liberal-minded, and then I kind of lapsed and sort of said, screw it, I don't believe in any kind of party, and then I kind of got into the conservative mind frame, and then I kind of went towards the independent libertarian philosophy and started to kind of not that anybody asked, but I guess I'm just sort of talking, and I looked into the non-aggression principle. And I like that one because they basically believe in property rights and not aggressing against anyone. And unless you're, attacked, you can defend yourself, but you can't actually go after somebody for no reason. So, that I think most people would agree with, and it makes the most sense.
I would say that.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
I started off like as a liberal Democrat, supporting like who was that guy ran against Nixon? Not Humphrey.
Go ahead. I know who you're talking
about.
Yeah,
the liberal guy that ran against Nixon, during the war.
His name's on the tip of my tongue. I can't.
I know what you mean.
Kurt Vonnegut wrote a novel. It's God Bless You. It's on the tip of my tongue too. Not Rockefeller.
No.
No, it was oh my goodness.
I know. It's because it's erased from our memory. We're not allowed to think about it. But I was a supporter of Jimmy Carter. I was a Democrat. Just like Cynthia McKinney was a Democrat. And then I went straight to anarchist. I was an anarchist.
Right.
With the yippies. And I thought that was the solution, man. No government. Let's just just tear it down, man. Just burn it all down and start fresh. Just survive. Just man eat man.
Yeah. Eat
the rich. Then I guess, now I've settled into this kind of a Hugo Chavez socialist, where I believe, I believe it was a successful revolution in Venezuela, and that's why there was so much CIA and, U.S. attack and assassinations going on down there. And, we nationalized the oil companies. We doubled the tax on the top 1%. The rest of us pay no tax, Nationalize the oil companies, and we're paying 50 cents a gallon for gas, and it's the greatest economic stimulus possible, because everything, tomatoes, anything gets driven in a truck, the price of all goods and services drops dramatically,
Mm-hmm.
And then forget things that no one talks about is merchant payment processors. There's one company that gets 3% of every transaction done with a debit card or a credit card. They have 60% of the market. The world market. They pull $80 billion a year out of the U.S. economy. 3% off the top. For what? Get rid of them. That could be a government agency doing that. That's a piece of cake.
Well, the thing is that with the big corporations, like people say, well, if there was no government, then there would be monopolies. It actually wouldn't, but well, you know what? This could be a whole discourse on, how it could be run. We have to kind of work with, I guess, what we have. But if we could kind of cut down on some of, okay, the social programs that we have are insolvent, and they're just going to run out of money eventually. They're just going to have to keep printing money. And like I said, this is a whole huge other can of worms. But we kind of have to work with what we have. And I think that's something that we sort of should all be on the same page with. We should kind of like have an idea of what we want to restore or replace, or, what direction we want to go with what we have. We have a huge federal Leviathan that's this centralized government, and in the old days, the federal government had plenary powers. It had none. And it was the states that ended slavery. and it was, the Supreme Court was very limited. Now it's like the Supreme Court, you appeal to the Supreme Court, and it's like they're gods. They're just people, just like anybody else. I think we have to be really weary of bureaucrats that are people just like us that don't work in the private sector, never had a private sector job, and then dictate policy to everybody else. Where, or transient public officials who never worked in the sector that were, went to law school and then they, got into politics and, all of a sudden they know what's best for everybody else. Big business uses government to regulate its competitors. Yeah. So, it's the two evil, they both work with each other in conjunction. Everyone says, oh, it's big government that's bad, and then the other side says, no, it's big corporations that are bad. Both of them work together to oppress the small corporations.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree with you, yeah.
But, like I said, that's a whole, other, discussion. But, I get where you're coming from, and I see, where you started, and, with the anti-war movement. I've talked to a lot of good Americans from that generation that, some grew up in the 50s, some grew up in the 60s, and they said, I'm so sad. They'd probably be considered baby boomers. And they said, I'm so sad that the country at its best will probably never go back to the way it was when we grew up.
Hubert Humphrey, yeah. No one even knows that name anymore.
Right.
I was thinking Rosewater. I don't know why I was thinking Rosewater, man.
Rosewater? You're thinking of Goldwater.
That's it. Sorry, man.
Rosewater.
Yep, Barry Goldwater.
Barry Goldwater, right? Barry Goldwater, wasn't that it?
He was kind of like the Ron Paul of his day.
Yeah. See, we got to remember, too, that even us three, man, we're under conditioning, man. We're under programming as well, and it's no accident that no one quotes Hubert Humphrey anymore, or that no one on the extreme right knows who Goldwater is, brother.
And also politicians back then, Kennedy, the reason why he beat Nixon is he sort of ran right of him. He ran for cutting taxes and for boosting the military. He himself as kind of a Cold Warrior, and he came off better on TV than Nixon did. And the level of corruption that we have now, everyone points to Nixon as being, so bad. The level of corruption that we have now is like, just with the NSA and everything else, the rights, the way that they've overstepped their bounds and ingratiated themselves into every part of our life, is so much worse. The COINTELPRO was bad. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
In its time, it was awful. I mean, it was like a seek and destroy thing. And, but what we have going on now is like, I mean, everybody's afraid to make a phone call. Everyone thinks their phone calls are listened to. Everybody thinks.
But our phone calls have been listened to since the 70s by the NSA, and now suddenly,
right. No, but I'm saying there's like a chilling effect now because we know how advanced, technology is. The fact that we're talking over Skype, you back of your head, you could be like, is someone listening in on this? And damn well that there's backdoors and ways to do it. And,
but that's always been there, man. The NSA has always been there recording everything for a long, long time. And now suddenly there's this PR campaign that the NSA is the worst agency when in my experience, it's more the FBI, that has this infiltration capacity that's messing with us on a daily basis in our real lives. NSA records and they document, but it's these other agencies, man, that really infiltrate into your life with agents and provocateurs and stuff like that, and CIA, which is both, Project Mockingbird, where they admit that they own all of the media and have all kind of agents, in the media
In the front companies.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got the local cops, you
Mhm.
know, who have gotten, it's a militaristic branch.
They've militarized
Oh
them.
my God.
Yep.
It's no longer, it's not even in their training to protect or serve or anything like that. It's all officer safety. It's the other way around. It's totally changed. The training of police officers
They
is...
go through a boot camp.
Yeah!
Yeah.
You know, it's not, and yeah, cops were corrupt before, but now they're all, you know, forget it.
Well, I was talking to one and I was saying, the sheriff has the ability to throw the feds out, and then he stopped talking to me. Like, that was just, I crossed the line. When we were having a good conversation until I said that, and I was like, it was like, how dare you, throw the feds out? No, they're ensconced in our downtown at our office. It's like, they wouldn't even think to do that.
Yeah, I was talking to a guy who was a former police chief in a small city in California, Northern California, and he was saying about how the cops here in Vegas are so inbred, and they don't socialize with the people in the community. And where he was a police chief, you couldn't abuse people because they were your friends, they were your neighbors, But here, the police department, it's a community of their own, and they don't socialize or interact with the general public. And that's why they're so rude and so violent and so oppressive. And it's the same thing. The feds come in. Now they have this program where they bring in, all the agencies need to cooperate with each other and share information, blah, blah, blah. So they have these federal agents, FBI and DHS and all these other guys, in the local precincts and in the local, where they're all socializing with each other, you know? And I'm not going to screw my buddy with the FBI. Because the rule is, you're right, the federal agencies need to ask permission of the local agencies before they can enter an investigation. And it's the same thing, too. You cannot report a crime to the FBI. You have to report it to your local police department, and they have to report it to the FBI.
Mm.
So, and a lot of people don't realize that, but with this cozy relationship they have now, and with the federal government giving them all these toys and equipment and stuff like that they just love to have, because every kid wants to drive a bulldozer and every kid wants to drive a tank.
That's right.
Yeah, and these cops are just overgrown kids who have this fantasy life of being a cop. Anyway, I don't want to go too far.
I know, me that's what I mean. You always get me in trouble, so I just stop talking. But I think we've all had our run-ins with police, whether it's just been a random pull, when you're pulled over and they want to run your license, they want to know where you're going and where you're coming from and all these, and then just let you go on your way. I've had them stop me and ask me a litany of questions, and it's like, and then it was just like, okay, carry on. Just to hassle you. And I think everybody's had a story like that. Or whenever there's a cop behind somebody nowadays, you even though you're not doing anything wrong, you tense up like you are. It gives you that, like I said, that chilling effect is so the last time I got pulled over, there was a cop behind me, and I think the speed limit was 50, and I went 60 because, normally people go real slow when there's a cop behind them, and it's almost like they're brake checking them, so they're going to get rear-ended. So I said, screw it, I'm going to speed up because I figured that would be annoying. I thought I'd give him a little bit of room to go around me. And instead he pulled me over, and he was like, why in the hell were you speeding while I was right behind you? Like I was trying to escape from him. And I said, well, if I was trying to flee, I think I'd be going a little faster than 10 miles over the speed limit. And then he started pretending that he smelled alcohol in the car. And,
right, see?
I was like, come on, guy, give me a break. I'm just going home. And, we had to do this whole song and dance. But, all he did was just send me on my way. But we had to go through the motions first.
Well, there is definitely a policy. There's a plan to get as many people as possible arrested for DUIs and domestic violence, and those are the ones, man, and paraphernalia, any kind of marijuana, drug paraphernalia. Then you're in the probation system. You're on the parole, and where they can search you without a warrant and all this kind of stuff. You're under their control. Plus, you're paying all their fines and their classes and all that other crap.
Right. And once you're in that probation, I just want to, if anybody's listening, once you're in the probation, you're in there for a long time. It's really hard. The failure rate is so high.
Yeah.
They nitpick you, and if you don't pay your fines on time, they arrest you there at the office. They'll hold you there. The probation officers can't do it, but they'll call a unit, and they'll come, and they'll grab you. And they don't care if you got a baby with you at the office or whatever. And, it's awful. And a lot of people, they'll say, I don't want any paper. I'll just take the jail time.
Right. Yeah, it's almost hopeless, to get out on parole or be under probation. The odds are so far against you. And, one of the big things that people, one of the biggest probation violations for people is possession of a forged instrument or forgery or document fraud and all this nonsense. It's weird stuff that, little things you do, like you lie on a credit application, and they pull that out, they get you for it, or if you lie, another thing too is people who try and get out on bail and they lie to the bail bondsman, their information, they try and make it sound a little bit better. That's defrauding an insurance company. Okay? Then they pull that out later on, So, it's really a nasty situation once you're in the system. And I see these people because I'm sitting there a lot of times waiting to go, testify or whatever. And you sit through all the arraignments, And it's someone who 2 years ago, they were pulled over. Someone was in their passenger seat who had a marijuana pipe. And now it's 2 years. They didn't pay their fine. They didn't do their probation. They couldn't take a class. They missed it, so they got broke, and they get arrested over and over and over and over again.
And they get a VOP, a violation of probation.
Yes.
Start the whole thing over again.
And what they do, too, is they bring you back to court, and they say, well, listen, you got 3 months, but if you stay out of trouble for the next 6 months, and you do this class, that class, this class, but if you don't do it, you get a year, And then no one can do it. No one can go to these community service things, man. You can't get there if you don't have a driver's license,
Oh, right. Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. The
trick is to take your license, man.
They restrict it for 2 years. How can anybody get to those classes for 2 years without a license?
They take your license as number one. Then you can't get to work, so you drive without a license to get to work. Then you get pulled over. Or they see you at the bus stop, or they see you riding a bike. They target those people at the bus stop, and they target those people riding their bikes. If you get a DUI or you get your license suspended, whatever, never ride a bicycle without a bicycle helmet and that faggy bicycle outfit. Okay, because when they see a guy in regular clothes riding a bike, they say that guy doesn't have his driver's license, and they go after that guy.
And Ed, they plant dope on people so often.
Forget it. Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
How often they plant dope on them. Or it doesn't even have to be dope. If you're driving in a nice car, they could throw some wax in there, and they'll put it in your wallet, and they'll be like, how'd that get there? And they can take your vehicle. I've seen them walk up to people and laugh and say, are you with the motorcycle? Yeah, that's ours now.
Yeah.
And confiscate their property.
And you got to realize, too, that when they confiscate these cars...
And they feel justified because they feel like, oh, well, it was some drug-addicted scumbag we took it from.
Well, but then they drive around on those cars, and they use those cars. The DEA, man, all their personal cars that they use every day are confiscated cars, and they take them home with them, And this is what goes on in real life.
Oh, man, I see them with Dodge Challengers.
Yeah.
Mustangs and all kinds of... Oh, boy. Don't get me started. I have a few cops that live in my building that I'm on a, pretty good basis with, but even they always talk to you like, I don't want to be too nice because I might have to arrest you one day.
Right.
Yeah.
they always act a little funny. Like I don't want to cross too much of a line because you never know when I might have to throw a knee in the back of your neck.
Yeah.
And,
there's a loyalty between them that we don't have with them, no matter what. Yep. Well, okay, guys, we're getting toward. We've got 7 minutes left, so you guys can finish up anything you want to say.
I just want to say that I support our troops and our officers that work their lives out.
That's right. Sieg Heil!
Josh, you want to take it? I know I've been hogging the line. Did we lose?
Oh, he's gone. We lost him.
I thought it dropped off. I thought I saw someone drop off.
I don't know if I can find his number again. Oh, there it is. Okay, pull him back in. Whoop.
I was in a band with him, and I was telling Josh about a band because I had the option of going
the
overseas.
Sprint voicemail box of 33642.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how Skype works as well. Hey, Ed, maybe someone listening might find this educational. Do you use, when you do the radio show, do you use a microphone, and which kind, or, how do you do it with the Skype? Because I've seen people that use Skype and people that don't to do their show.
Yeah, we're using Skype for this show right now, and CJ Mars broadcasts us over 365 Live. Now, I got a headset, a cheap little tiny headset, but we just did a studio fund, which is funded.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to buy a mixer and an arm, and a really good microphone, and we'll be able to add music at the beginning and music at the end, all that kind of stuff, man. We're all getting all set up here to go.
Because if you get the mixer, you can fade down. If you took calls, you can fade them down and then bring them up. You can do all kinds of fun stuff with the mixer and the music.
Yeah.
And it's not expensive at all. I mean, for a decent one it is, but for, to do the job. But I was looking into it, and I was just curious. Because Skype, sometimes you get the echo.
Yeah, that's what we're using now. There's nothing we can do about that, And I know my audio sucks, and everybody complains about it, but,
Well, it's been good so far, and recently. No, I'm just saying, some people...
Yeah. Whoop.
I mean, I hear you okay on my end.
Yeah. Now, your audio sounds really good, too. Yeah. All right, so I got to eat some food. It's 9:30 p.m. Thank you to Chris Wallace. Thank you to Adam Gorightly and Joshua Brookshire. Don't forget to visit Pacific West Bamboo, our wonderful sponsor Amanda there at 503-839-8126. And InfinityHomePlans.com. Mike Gray. Great guy helping us out. If you want to build an addition or something like that, get a hold of Mike Gray at InfinityHomePlans.com. My daughter Victoria has a show on Teen Truth on CJMarsRadio.com at 1 p.m. Saturday afternoon. Always great, really popular show. My website's emailrevealer.com, online infidelity investigations and cell phone forensics, computer forensics, any kind of background reports, asset searches, whatever you need, give us a call. And Adam Gorightly, our great guest today, HistoriaDiscordia.com. And got a bunch of books, Caught in the Crossfire, Kerry Thornley, Oswald Garrison Investigation, The Shadow over Santa Susana, Black Magic, Mind Control, and the Manson Family Mythos. And that's Adam Gorightly, a great guest tonight. So I want to thank all you guys. Don't forget, please, if you can help us out, my GoFundMe.com, Help Save My Family by Ed Opperman. We need your help desperately. If you can help us out, $5, $10, whatever it is, we have to. We're being destroyed by the Clark County Family Court system. And we need your help financially, and we need you to come down in person to court with us. I don't know about August 4th. My next appearance August 4th. I don't know if that's going to do any good, but definitely when we have the evidentiary hearing and stuff like that. Next week we have, we're doing a show about the Scientology and Hollywood scandals. And then we're doing the Jimmy Savile show after that. And then we have that big show coming up about the Cotton Club murders with Robert Evans and Roy Reid and all that kind of stuff like that. Then we have May Pang coming up, and a lot of big shows coming up and a lot of big things. We're working on a show about the West Memphis 3 that is so huge. We have a guest coming on who has never done a radio show before. He testified at the trial. A very controversial guy with a lot of information, and we're working on booking him coming up too. All right, guys. Good night. Good night, Chris.
All right. Good night, Ed.
Thank you. Good night, all. Good night, sponsors and guests and everybody else. And my beautiful daughter, Victoria. Good night.